No one's going to apply. Now, so what are they going to do? Are they just going to close down? No. They're going to slash tuitions. I mean, first of all, they have a big fixed cost. They have an empty classroom, right? If they take tuition down from $20,000 to $2,000, $2,000 is better than nothing. It's better than, they're not going to get any tuition from an empty chair. So the first rule of business is get some revenues in. They need revenues. Any revenue is better than no revenue, right? It's because the marginal cost of that extra it's practically nothing. They've already gotten all the costs, right? So they slash their tuition. So now tuitions collapse. Why aren't they collapsing now? Because they don't have to. Because people will pay the price. Now, the minute that happens, then what are the universities going to do? All right, well, we're not making any money. We're only charging $2,000 a year. What can we do? Now they're going to cut costs. They're going to go through and see, who can we fire? Who don't we need? And they go to these tenured professors and say, you know what? We're not paying you all this money. We can't afford it. Cut your salary. Everybody gets a pay cut. They get efficient. And you know what? The colleges can make money again at a low tuition. I mean, right now, there is no market for low-cost college. Why should there be? The students have all the money. But, you know, and of course, you know, if it becomes an election issue, you know, my opponents say, oh, Peter Schiff is against student loans. He's against students. He's against education. No, I'm not. I'm against the educational establishment ripping off the students. Because student loans don't help the students. They have to pay back the loans. They help the colleges. The colleges get the money. The kids are stuck with the bills. So it's a perfect example of the government coming in and creating a problem where it didn't exist. They did the same thing with healthcare. Why is healthcare so expensive? The same reasons. Healthcare should be getting cheaper, just like college. It should be cheaper today to go to school than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Why? Well, 30 years ago, they were still using typewriters. They didn't have computers. They were using carbon copies. They had things on little index cards to keep records. The teachers had to grade the papers by hand. You know, I mean, it was much more complicated. Schools are all about record keeping and delivering a lecture. I mean, you could with the internet. And especially when there are so many kids in college today. I mean, when you have more economies of scale, it should be cheaper. It should be cheaper to educate 10,000 kids per kid than 100. To say that, well, the universities are bigger now, that's why it's more. It should be cheaper because it's more. And I said, you know, it's funny. Not only has the government driven up the cost of the college degree, but it's driven down the value of the college degree. Because now so many people have them that they mean nothing. You know, in 1940 or 1950, if you had a high school degree, that was pretty good. You could get probably 95% of all jobs with a high school degree. Now a college degree means nothing. You got to get a master's degree. You got to get a doctorate. So you're in school for 8 years, 10 years. How much money do you borrow to get a master's or a doctorate? So you can't even compare a 4-year university tuition today to what it was 40 years ago because they're night and day. They don't. And I would bet, with all the people going to school, that they've dumbed it down anyway. I'd be willing to bet if we just randomly tested high school graduates in 1940, 1950, in math or English or whatever, and compared them to graduates of our universities today, the high school kids back then probably would test higher. They probably knew more. So, you know, all we've done, all of this money for education, all of this has just benefited the educational system, the bureaucracies of our universities and our schools. It hasn't benefited kids who now are forced to stay in college longer, learn less, and get stuck with a horrific bill. You know, my father worked his way through school, and most people, most of our fathers, if your parents didn't have money, you worked your way through school. How did you work your way through school? You had a job. You had a job in the summer. You didn't have, you waited tables, you bussed tables, you delivered pizza, you delivered groceries. You didn't have a fancy job. But you know what? That little bit of money paid for the whole thing. Nobody borrowed money to go to schoon. It wasn't until the government got involved and everybody borrowed. And now it costs a fortune. Anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
I have a little question. Your message is really honest and it's really realistic, but it may not come off as that hopeful to people. And we saw in the last election that they basically sold this hope with little substance. So you've got all the substance, So how are you going to translate this, you know, to the average voter in the Republican primary? Is there an issue that you're sort of going to focus in, like when Ned Lamont ran against the war, and Rand Paul is sort of, he's basically running against the debt? Like, you know, how are you going to just...
Well, I'm going to try, obviously, you know, my argument is a little bit more intellectual, so people are going to have to get beyond the immediate. Now, a lot of people understand that in normal things. You know, if you know, they understand the concept of no pain, no gain. If you're overweight, you're going to go on a diet. You're going to exercise. You're going to cut out the junk food, and that might not be, you know, as fun as the activities that led to your obesity, right? So people understand that, or they understand the concept of, you know, a drug addict wanting to get, you know, straight and the problem with withdrawal. So hopefully people understand my message is, look, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better.
That's like tough love.
Yeah, because of the mistakes we've made. But the solution isn't to keep making mistakes, because then we guarantee it will never get better and it will only get worse. But what I'm hoping to accomplish, like I say, look, there is light at the end of this tunnel. Because if we can do the right thing, then we can rebuild the economy. And I'm hoping that one part of the right thing is to shrink government and to say to somebody, look, things are going to get difficult, but if I can at least lower your taxes, if I can reduce the regulation that you have to live with, but in order to do that, of course, I have to be able to sell the concept of spending cuts. So I have to be able to, let people know that government checks have got to get smaller. And I'm also not afraid to tackle, the real issues like Social Security. I mean, I was on this show, Face the State, and someone asked me about Social Security, and I said, well, look, they said, what if he monkeys with Social Security? People said, monkey, I don't have to monkey with it, it's already broke. I mean, it's a Ponzi scheme. What's to monkey with? It's a disaster. And I need to tell people the truth about Social Security. Right? That every politician wants to pretend it's the greatest thing. It's a terrible thing. We never should have started it. But we did, and now we're in serious trouble. Sure, there are some people that like Social Security because they got in early. There were some Bernie Madoff clients that made money. They got in early and they got out. But, most people are going to hate Social Security. Most young people, I mean, the people in this room, you're not going to get jack out of Social Security. But what you're going to get is stuff, you're going to get a big bill while you're working. I mean, the way Ponzi schemes work is the people that get in early make money. But the money they make is equal to the losses of everybody that comes later. And it's actually not even a zero-sum game, because a lot of the money is siphoned off the top by the promoters of the scheme, in this case, the government. So yeah, Ima Friedman was the first person to ever get a Social Security check. She paid something like $22 in taxes. And then she lived to 100. And she collected maybe $20,000 in benefits. It was a great deal for her. It's a lousy deal for her granddaughter. And it's a lousy deal for the country. So we've got to find a way to get rid of it. Yeah, before it destroys us, right? So I've got to, face these tough issues, and we'll see if the public is willing to elect somebody who's going to talk about it. If they're not, if they just want another politician telling them it's going to get better if we just spend more money and print more money. But hopefully, things are going to be better. Now, maybe 2010 is too early for me. Maybe it won't be bad enough, right? It's going to be worse in 2012. It's going to be worse. It's going to keep getting worse. At some point, something's going to have to give. Something's going to snap. People are going to have to realize, it doesn't work. And, and so maybe if I don't win in 2010, maybe somebody will win in 2012 or something. But at least the message is going to get out there. But yeah, it's going to be difficult winning with the truth, because it's a lot easier to win with a lie.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about rights today, mostly pertaining to individual rights. And I kind of think of the bailouts as a violation of the rights of competing businesses.
Well, obviously, I mean, I own a small brokerage firm.